Stop it.
Yeah, work the
That's
world.
super cool. Oh my gosh. That's awesome. I love that you guys all have other things that I don't know about. This makes
Many,
me so happy.
many things, many layers
I
to
love it.
you know.
Well, that was an
That's
interesting way to go live on YouTube, but we are live, and yes, we got lots of stuff that we know how to do. But one thing we do is get here every Tuesday night from 6 to 8 Central for Talk Time with TJ Triple T, number 219 tonight.
Wow.
Keep them rolling. My name is TJ Zeville. I like to call myself a professional problem solver, which I always follow up with, no, I don't know everything. I just have a unique way of asking lots of questions, help people find the solutions to the challenges they are facing. And we got all sorts of fun stuff that we get to do here. One of the things I like to do on Tuesday night is welcome everybody on YouTube land, and I get to say, "Hi, Mom," up in Minnesota, yeah. And looks like they're back in the freezer. And down here in Texas, Mother Nature can't decide if we're going to be spring, summer, fall, or somewhere in between. So we just keep rolling with it. And glad everybody showed up on time after Daylight Saving Scam Part 2 or 1. Is this Part 1? I'm not sure. I'll be glad if they ever get their stuff together and realize that Arizona's got it figured out. You don't need to mess with the time. One of my favorite explanations is a little meme that says, when the Indian chief was explained how daylight savings works, his reply was, only white man would cut 1 foot off top of blanket and sew to bottom blanket to make it longer. And that about sums it up. So, for those of you on YouTube, if you would do me a favor, whether you're watching live or watching the recording, please do me a favor and do all of the free stuff that costs you nothing but helps out the channel. Click the subscribe button and ring the bell so you know when we're back on the air. And if you like any of the videos, please go and check them out, like them, leave comments, and then comments on your comments, because I like to read the comments. What can I say? And we also have a website you can check out at www.thetswb.com. TheTallSkinnyWhiteBoy.com is what it stands for. It has since way before the internet. So if you find anything else on the internet trying to claim that they are TSWB or what it means, that is not me. And I have nothing to do with that. But on the website, you'll find out lots of things that I'm privileged to help people with, such as depression, anxiety, phobias, PTSD, grief. I offer corporate coaching, and I work with athletes from beginner all the way up to pro level on the mental game, and still getting relationship clients. So if you know anybody that their little bout with Valentine's Day, or as I like to call it, Singles Awareness Day, didn't quite work out the way they had hoped, or if they are in a relationship and it's not quite going the way they had hoped, have them get a hold of me. I do offer a free 30-minute consultation. That's right, no charge, 30 minutes of my time for us to chit-chat, see what kind of challenges you're up against. And if I feel that I can help you out, that we're a match, I'll let you know. And if not, I promise I will also let you know, and I'll do my best to help you find the right person for the challenges that you are up against. What else? It is time to introduce the tie of the week, and been wearing a different tie. Try to wear a tie every week of the year because I've got more than that, and the collection is growing, this time thanks to our beautiful and amazingly intelligent, Miss Holly sent me this one to represent all the squirrels that we deal with here.
That's so cool.
Well, yep. So thank you, Holly.
A plus, Holly.
Very nice,
Very
Holly.
happy addition to the collection. Anybody got any cool stuff they want to share from the last time we were here 7 days ago? Miss Lenora.
Right now, Duncan said that he will not be able to get on the call tonight, which is sad, but he will absolutely be missed. And lots of different insights from this past week. Let's see. I noticed, I think one of the topics tonight is overthinking, and I noticed that for as much as I don't think I overthink, I do definitely still overthink, and I can definitely downshift a little bit. But Holly put the topics in there, so I'm excited to see how that unravels tonight.
Very cool. Anybody else? Boring week, I take it? I've been quite busy here at the Casa de TNT. Been planting trees and working on finishing a wall that I built on the backside of the property, and we got a dog that we got a while back that I'm still trying to convince that no, my stuff is not play toys. You got your own play toys. He took one of my favorite baseball caps out and had a little chew time with it. Yeah, made it. What do we call it? He personalized it for me. But that's the joys of having dogs. So, if nobody else had anything cool this week, yes, no? Somebody? No? All right. Sometimes nice, relaxing weeks are good to have. Then I guess I'll, for anybody that's new or watching the recording for the first time, I'll explain how this goes. It's a 2-hour show. The first hour, I do my best to try and get through 3 topics that I've come up with for the week. And then at the end of the first hour, we switch gears and it's open mic, open platform. Anybody on the call can bring up a question or a topic. And I let the people on the call answer first because I like to learn as well. And after everybody else has answered, then if I feel I've got anything to add to it, that's when I throw in my 2 centavos. And I'll also let you guys know that I'm working with a very large monitor. So yes, my eyes go to all of you. I don't do the fabulous put myself up there as the speaker so I can stare at myself while I'm speaking. So I like watching you guys. I've had a few people go, man, you look like you are just, yeah. Welcome to my room.
He sees all.
Huh?
I said he sees all.
Yes, yes. But without further ado, I guess it's time to get into the topics. And the topics for tonight, number 219 on March 10th, 2026, romancing the past, overthinking, and maintenance. And we'll jump right in. Romancing the past. Oh, the good old days. How many times have we heard about the good old days and how nice it would be to go back to the good old days? And back when I was young, when if I wasn't walking uphill barefoot through snow and blizzards to get to school every day, it was an amazing time. Who else romances the past? Relationships. Oh my. I actually know some people that have been married and divorced more than twice. Yeah. And for those of you that are watching live on YouTube or watching the recording, you miss all the fun over in the comments section over here. And Mike tossed in the relationship. Should have, could have, yes, and would have. The regret sisters. But yeah, you look at some of these people, and I had one of my clients today talking about how they missed their ex, and it really wasn't that bad, and I said, oh, well then why did you get divorced? And they realized that those red flags had been sitting outside long enough that they had bleached out and become light pink until they started reminiscing about how much fun they had right towards that last, we're just going to call it the year surrounding the divorce time. The 6 months leading to, the 6 months after, when all of the scars and wounds were still nice and open, and they were tossing salt into each other and all that stuff. And in the time that it had taken, their ability to romance the past allowed them to understand what it was about their partner that kept them, that drew them together, that kept them together for the time that they were together. And so part of the exercise was, okay, then what was it that caused it to fall apart? You had the good. You're still romancing the past. You still remember the good times. And if they got kids, they remember the really good times. But what was it about that relationship that allowed it to fall apart? And I make them hold up the mirror to themselves as well. That is part of the Triple P protocol, research and development. They're researching people so they can develop themselves to be a better person. Well, breakups can bring out some of the ugliness, show the wounds, show the shortcomings, show the challenges. And it's also a really good opportunity to build up protective empathy. And one of the things I pointed out to him about protective empathy is the people that build it up the best are the people that also suffer from it the most. Toxic empathy, when people allow others to take advantage of them, they still get beat up pretty bad. But they'll say, well, it was my fault, or they were going through some stuff, and so, I should just take it on. And that in itself is very draining and hard on a person. But when you're using protective empathy, it can get lonely, especially if you're single, because you realize you don't have to put up with that anymore. And then you have to sit there and decide, well, who do I truly want in my life? And here's where romancing the past pops in again. Because in that interim, where you've had it with depressing Donna and all of the other people that were sucking the living life out of you, and you walked away from them, but you still haven't found the people that re-energize you, it's a real easy, slippery slope to slide into, again, about romancing the past. Well, I really miss them. It wasn't that bad. Oh, yeah? What was it about them that made you leave? Well, all the gossip and the this and that, and they wouldn't shut up and drove me nuts and da da da. Oh. On second thought, yes, I miss them, but I don't miss them. Anybody got any ahas, comments, epiphanies on this one? Anybody romance the past until they analyze the past? Lenora.
I think it's definitely an interesting one, especially when we can easily romance the past. I would just be aware, if anybody's doing it, what state you're in emotionally at the time when you're doing it.
Mm-hmm.
If you feel like you're alone and then you start to romance the past, it's a very different story versus when you're feeling full of life and aware of being in a clear mind or in a grounded mindset where you can recognize that, yes, you also made mistakes there and that this person might not be the complete and total end all and be all of villains or the end all and be all of like the greatest thing ever, but to have an honest look at the past and be able to notice and learn from it and recalibrate. Because if you did separate, it doesn't mean that you can't go back together. Or if you did separate, it doesn't mean that it wasn't for good reason. So to do it from a grounded place and very clear language and emotion.
Awesome insights. Yes, thank you. Holly.
So this is definitely a really good topic to have. I think it's Matthew Hussey talks about, like, almost everybody goes through this as a stage of breaking up. Sorry. We good? Okay. But one of the things you have to remember, is that, because the first stage is you notice why you broke up. Then the second stage is when you remember why you were together because you've now lost that. But if you do it from a place of abundance, it won't hurt as bad. So if you've got a lot of friends and you've got a lot of hobbies or whatever it is that makes you feel good about yourself, you're not going to notice their absence as much as if you're just sitting at home all day, playing video games and never get out, never talk to anybody else, never date, whatever. And I'm not saying go out and date before you're ready or anything like that, and it's not solely dating. But even if you just recognize this is a known thing, but it's because you're far away and so you're not close to the hard parts, but you are now noticing what you're losing, it can make this process a lot easier to go through and make you less likely to do something stupid out of a place of desperation and loneliness.
Well said. And yes, both of you hit on something that's very important. It's the lesson inside of what happened. And part of that, the full lesson comes when you take the time to own your portion of what happened. I've been around this stuff for most of my life. Apparently, everybody loved to talk to me about their relationships, and part of it was being a bartender long enough. Boy, I put in my time as a bar stool therapist, and got to hear the good, the bad, the ugly, and all the points in between. And it really is, there are some people that do have that introspective. You can absolutely love somebody and realize that over time you both grew into somebody different, into two different people, and you didn't stay aligned. And that's life. That's time passage. That's all the above. And I've had people that have been cheated on, and they're like, "Oh, they this and they that, and a bunch of da 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 da." And they didn't like it when I pointed out that when the relationship is strong, you can't get them to cheat. If everything is going perfect, you can't get them to cheat. I watched it many times in the bar. But being in that position and listening to both sides, I had a pretty good idea of who was and why. Yeah, Mark put in the comments, you either grow together or grow apart. There is no third option. It's right in the other saying of you're either growing or you're dying. And when it comes to relationships, I loved Lillian Pearl Bridges' training on that, where she said the biggest mistake people make when they get into a relationship, especially when they get married, is they think that the two become one. And they don't. The two are still two. They agreed to paddle down the river of life together and help each other through the rapids. But they forget to test and grow with each other, and the fog sets in, and all of a sudden the fog lifts and they find out they're on two entirely different tributaries. They didn't even recognize that the drift was happening until one day they looked up and went, "Where'd you go?" And sometimes there's a landmass between them. And they both have to decide, is the landmass big enough or small enough to try and get back together? One of them or both of them have to figure out some way to find another single tributary, or climb to the top of the landmass and look around, figure out where they can get back in the river of life together. Holly.
Don't know why this just popped into me, but when you were talking about that, I also had the thought of, are you losing, even if you're, in the same relationship with somebody, or, it's just a life phase or whatever it may be, are you so busy romanticizing the past that you're missing out on the adventure of the present?
Yes, exactly. Thank you. And I've seen that as well. I've seen people romance the past so much over health stuff and things they used to be able to do. And you ask them, like, okay, so what are you doing about it now? Well, I can't do nothing. I'm so out of shape. I'm just gonna sit in my little place, and I'm just gonna sit here and complain. But back in the day, I could throw a football. Back in the day, I could hike Mount Vesuvius. When's the last time you walked around the block? I get kind of winded. Well, the weather around here, it can get kind of nasty, I talked to the doctor, and they said, I shouldn't get too strenuous. Well, yeah, you probably shouldn't go out and shovel the yard in the middle of a blizzard. But you can work back at it. Don't let the romance of the past, like you said, Holly, rob you of the future. I don't even like to drive anymore. Back when we paid 25 cents for a gallon of gas. You can't even afford to drive around the block anymore. Oh my God. Yeah, we know. Lenora.
When you started to talk about romance in the past, I was thinking mostly relationship, and then you just went off on a different path, and I thought that was really interesting, and very much so. The algorithm on Instagram keeps giving me stuff from the 80s and the 90s, and I love it. I'm a very nostalgic person, and something that I've noticed. So right now, my parents and my in-laws are aging into their 70s, and they've certain, I think all of them have mostly kept their mentality of this is what happens. This is just what you do now. And my husband and I were very active. We really like to hike. We hiked 10 miles the other day. And we keep encouraging them to keep walking, to keep moving, and to not, and they're like, oh, well, we're old. And I keep encouraging them to not settle into that mindset that it's just a number. And yes, you might not feel like you do when you were 40 or when you were 20 or anything like that. And you're not great. Notice where you are. And really, when you look back at pictures, it's great to be nostalgic, and it's great to say, you can look at it and go, that was what a time that was. It's not here anymore. Or you can say, I'm still alive. Yes. And I really want to keep going. Or, especially in their situation, they've watched their parents age. And some of them were not blessed to make it to beyond 65. And some of them made it to 90 or 100. My husband's grandmother, I know I talked about her in the summer of last year, she had turned 100, and about 2 weeks later she passed. And she was very active up until that point. She was still able to get herself dressed and still walked with a walker. And I thought it was such a wonderful thing, because we would have conversations about it and say, look what they're still able to do. And we had another one who was on the other side, and look what she wasn't able to do. And to really raise your awareness of, you can look at the past and you don't have to settle for this right now. Like, this is just how it is. This is just how it is because that's simply a thought that you were passed by, and now you've completely adopted as a belief of yours. But if you're saying, hey, you know what? I'm kind of curious as to what that park looks like in the town 3 miles over. Let me go for the day, and let me spend even an hour out there. And that could be my little incremental step outward. So that way you don't get trapped in romancing the past, and you can recognize that you can still be here in this life, in this body that you have. And thank God you have this body to walk around in, and walk around a park in, or go to a music festival or something, especially now that it's spring, and be part of those communities, or even go to a different church, whatever it is for that person. But to really allow yourself to appreciate the past and also come to the present and say, what do I want to do right now?
Yes. Yeah, and 100%. I'm glad you brought that up because it's right in alignment with the idea of you can romance the past and let it anchor you and restrict you, or you can romance the past and let it fuel you and motivate you. My wife has been working out since she was like 2 weeks old or something like that. I think she's had a gym membership since she left the hospital as a newborn. And it showed me, she's constantly showing different things. Mike had put in the comments, I find the older I'm getting, the more stiff I'm getting, and it's limiting movement and watching mom and dad show the result of loss of flexibility. That is one thing that we have to be very cognitive about. And it's part of what I would call unnatural aging. And the only reason I say that is there are so many representatives out there proving that health is a choice in age, short of, a broken hip or cancer or things of that nature. But if you're generally healthy, then it comes down to choice. My wife found this lady that I believe she was 65, 68, somewhere in there, maybe older. And she was getting very restricted in her ability to move and perform duties and things of that nature. And her daughter said, "This is it. I can't watch you just shrink into nothingness." And so her daughter got her into going to the gym. Grandma now has her own YouTube channel, has tons of followers. She's powerlifting. And
She's super cool.
her body transformation. Am I right?
Yeah.
Like, oh my gosh, she reversed in age by what, 20 years, 30 years?
Yeah. It's
But
pretty cool.
it took that change. And I think she did the concept of romancing the past that anchored her into, oh, those were the days when I could actually move. And then letting her daughter flip it on her and said, let's get back to romancing the past so that you can move just like you did back in the past. And she took that and went even further. So there's another form of romancing the past, and how do you want to usually how do you want to use it for where you're at right now? Holly.
I love that phrase. How do you want to use it for where you are right now? Because I was thinking about it. I think, first of all, there's a difference between longing to be in the past and being grateful for the past.
There.
It's also something about what can I learn from the past?
Yes.
And also, what direction am I looking? So the two things that popped into my head is, when I was getting older, like, I can't remember what year it was, but I was feeling so bad about how old I am and how young I used to be. And then I don't know why, but just this thought popped into my head that said, today I am the youngest I will ever be again.
Yes.
And I'm going to celebrate that, and I'm going to be grateful for that. The other thing was, how can I use this to get rapport with the generations who came before me? Because basically I had a coworker who's like, oh yeah, I wasn't born for September 11th. And I had this moment of, oh my gosh, I'm so old, you know. But then I thought, this must be what the people who were older than me felt like when I told them I didn't remember Pearl Harbor. And then just like all of a sudden, all the people of the past became real to me and all the events became real to me. So, you know, I think it's interesting that the aging process can teach us to have compassion and understanding for the people who came before us as well.
Exactly. Yeah, my father's father lived to be exceptionally. I think he passed at 94, if I remember. And I thought about all the things that he had witnessed in just that amount of time, from the black and white television to the color television to the the Model A to today's cars and so many things. And now it seems like things are progressing faster than we can keep track of. And there are some people that are romancing the past for the simpler time. Well, one way is stay off media. Enjoy your present surrounding. Lenora.
I romance cars. I liked cars where I actually could put the key in the ignition, where I was able to shut my own trunk with my own force. I didn't need to wait for it to go up, and I didn't need to wait for it to go down. I miss my cars.
People wonder why I still own them and why I'm fixing up 79. There's no computers on there. I know. You actually have to unlock the door with a key. I know. I've owned cars with 2 keys to them. Yes. And a clicker on the floorboard. Left foot, upper corner. Some of you actually know what that's for. Some
A
don't.
clicker.
So, any other input on that one before we try to possibly fit all? I think we're going to be working hard to get all 3 in tonight, because our next subject, overthinking. Oh, overthinking. I am a member of the Overthinkers Anonymous Club, and I've been thinking about putting that club together, but I just, what if nobody shows up? What if people don't like it? What if I don't have a place to get? What if what night should we put it on? I don't, But I tell you one thing I've pointed out to my wonderful clients with overthinking. What is the one very predominant thing that people do not overthink about? Anybody? Lenora.
The predominant thing that they don't overthink.
Yes, overthinkers can overthink so many things, but there is one thing they do not overthink.
I was going to go with something basic like air, but they don't overthink breathing. They're not like, oh my gosh, what if my next breath doesn't go?
Oh no, there are people that are worried about that. Like, oh my God, do I have something?
Then
I probably
perhaps
have.
they don't overthink. They're overthinking.
No, there are people that know they overthink, and they overthink the concept of that they're overthinking, and they overthink about how they're going to stop overthinking. Holly.
Don't know if this is what you're going for, but if you have like your hand in a flame or something, and so you have to take action, you can't think about it.
Nope. Good guess, though. You guys ready for this? The one thing that they have found, and the first time I heard it, I was like, you're right. And it's been a while since I've heard it. And ever since I've heard it, it has not been, there it is, Holly got it. Ba-ding, ba-ding, ba-ding. Best case scenario. People do not overthink best case scenario. What is their favorite thing to overthink? Worst case scenario. Oh my goodness gracious, when I get people with overthinking and anxiety and all the above, and I ask them about something and I'll go, so what's the worst thing that can happen? Oh, they're like the old-fashioned ticker tape. Is it? Here's a billion things that I came up with in the last 35 seconds that could go wrong. And then I flip the switch. Okay, well, what's the best case scenario? And that answer seems to flow like frozen molasses. And they have to sit there and they think about it. Well, I suppose it could probably work out. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, what's another best case scenario? What do you mean? You said best case scenario. There can only be one. What didn't stop you from giving me 37 worst case scenarios in a minute? Well, yeah, but if there's only one best case scenario, how come there isn't only one worst case scenario? Or flip it around. If there can be 7,200 worst case scenarios, why can't there be more than one best case scenario? I've talked to many people that are about to go on vacation. Ask them what they're overthinking about. Well, what if we're late for the airport? What if the plane gets delayed? What if when we get there we can't find a cab? What if when we get to the hotel? What if they don't have the room for us? What if the room we get really sucks? What if like, okay. But you never hear them go, well, what if we get to the airport on time? And what if the plane takes off on time? And what if there's a taxi waiting for us right there with our name? We just show up and we just walk out the door and the taxi man's like, hi, I'm here. And what if we get in the taxi and he goes, tonight's ride is free because you're cute. And then we get to the hotel and they're like, oh, we've got a discount for you. We moved you up to the penthouse suite and it's only $1 a night. Well, that would never happen. Well, neither are 99.9% of the things you just uttered about what could go wrong. Yeah, but they could go wrong. I heard they could go wrong. They might go wrong. And yet, in the quantum of possibilities, who's heard me say this before? Everybody that's been around Planet TJ for a while. In the quantum of possibilities, best case scenario has just as much probability as worst case scenario. The one you'll find the most is the ones you look for and feed the most energy to. And people prove it all the time. Any comments, ahas, epiphanies? Who just realized? Yes, Lenora.
I like that you made it a game. It's very good.
But Mark,
Well, sometimes I think, it all depends on your mindset. We were going to Jamaica for my sister-in-law's destination wedding, and we got into, it was Raleigh, and they had fog, and we had to get diverted. Even though we could see the runway, they were coming in, and there was a fog alert. Alarms went off. We ended up having to divert to another nearby airport, and everybody was, oh, I'm gonna miss my connecting flight. Again, they were overthinking all the things that could go wrong, and eventually we did get back to Raleigh, and of course we had missed our connecting flight to Jamaica. But I was like, that was when I was like, we're going to go have some fun in Jamaica. I was like, you know what? Again, I was just, I started coming up with positive scenarios like, hey, I've never slept overnight in the airport. I know a lot of people do, and they sleep on the floor, and I've never done that before. Can we do that? My wife's like, no, we got to get a hotel room. And I was like, okay, let's get a hotel room. We got a hotel room. For
so there was an option.
Yeah. So and then we I made friends with the concierge or whatever, the manager, and he was from our area of the country, and he directed us. He called the shuttle guy. We went to another restaurant because their restaurant, he said, you don't want to go to this restaurant. Took us to another hotel for a fabulous meal. And I was like, oh, this is great. This is awesome, and of course my brother-in-law and my wife are freaking out. We're gonna miss the wedding, don't worry about it. It's still a day or so away. We got rebooked on the next morning. So on the way back, we stopped and got some wine and some beer, and we're sitting there, beside the pool, having a good time. And, but I was determined I was not going to let the negative Nellies control the situation. So
Awesome.
we had a great evening, and like I said, talked the shuttle driver into stopping in Apache, and and had a great time at the restaurant. And we came back, and we got and we had our rooms for the night paid for by the airline. And the next morning we got on the plane. We got to Jamaica, and we got there 6 or 8 hours before the wedding. So we were going to was it Montego Bay? Yeah, and that's where the resort was. And we got there in good order. And but all that overthinking, oh, we're gonna my sister-in-law is freaking out. My sister and my brother are not gonna make my again,
Oh, yeah.
she was doing a ton of overthinking. I said, don't worry about it, we'll be there.
Yes.
And
The
I just
story.
I was just trying to, like I said, but it was but I was determined not to dwell on what you couldn't change, and just make the best of what you had. So I refused to go down the negative path, and so I just
Yes.
coming up with positive things, and we ended up having a good time. We had a little diversion, and we have a story that we can tell. And when everything goes perfectly, there's no story.
Thank
You
you.
know,
The reason when I was photographing weddings and dealing with wedding dances and all the above, the first thing I told, well, not the first thing, but one thing I made sure that the bride and groom understood is, don't wish for a perfect wedding. Wish for a memorable one. I've been to probably 3 perfect weddings. Do you know what I remember about them? That nothing really happened. It was like, okay, it happened. I said, as long as nobody gets hurt and you've got a good story for a laugh, that's the wedding. Even if there's a little fight or whatever, and whatever, as long as in the end you can laugh about it or whatever, it was a memorable one. Mike, you had your hand up?
Yeah, I did. My mom is a bit of a stickler. She's got her mind made up, and her her chair was getting old, starting to sag, and it's starting to hurt her back. And I was like, well, let's go take a look. And went to the furniture store, found a great electric uh, chair. It's adjustable, and we'll make all those adjustments to make her feel better. And just because it's electric, if it was put out, then what if the power goes out? Well, there's a battery pack. Well, what if that dies? Well,
Yes.
I mean, it's one after another. I mean, she's a master of finding the what ifs and the
Yep.
whole drama, you know. So it's difficult, and I don't know what to do with that, other than just to let her live in her world, I guess.
And that you can hit them with a quote, and I've got to verify, and maybe our amazing research person Holly can verify who made this quote, but the quote was, "I've wasted so much energy worrying about 100 things that could go wrong, 99 of which never happened, and the one that did turned out to be nothing." Okay, great. You've invested all this time, all this energy, all of this thought process about, well, this could go wrong, but what if it doesn't? Well, but then this could go wrong. Well, yeah, but what if it doesn't? Well, but then this could go wrong. How the hell do you live life? How do you drive a car? How do you? I'm like, you know what? You're right. And what if one of those big planes is flying over and the engine falls off and it comes crashing right through the roof, and now we've got a big hole in the roof, and we've got and the rain comes down, and then what if when the rain comes down and it turns into a flood, and then the whole house is going down, and we end up in Nebraska? Well, that's just stupid. Well, no offense, but so is 99% of the other stuff you brought up. All of that could happen. It could. Thanks for investigating everything that could go wrong. But you don't get paid for being that analyst. There are people, I know, I've met them. Their job is disaster management. What could go wrong? But they also have to back it up with some level of what we're going to do if it happens. Preparedness. So they can't go off on this monster tangent of, now we're into the 1 millionth percentage of what could happen, and we better be ready for it. Yes. Mark.
Well, to follow up on your wedding analogy, my wedding, we got to the house where my wife was getting ready to go to the wedding, and somebody came out and said, "Yeah, the photographer's here, but he's not going to take one picture unless we pay him for the entire job today." So
I had to do that.
well, I had money put aside for our trip, our honeymoon in Ireland. I had to give him just about all of it. But the funny story is, again, after the wedding, here we are going back to change to go to the airport, and we got all the envelopes, and we're ripping them all apart, getting all the cash we can from the gifts from other people, and we got enough money to have a good time. But that was, like I said, that turned into a good story, and
Sure.
but I used to tell people, again, when they start overthinking, well, if you're really, 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 really careful, nothing good or bad will ever happen to you. You'll just spend all your time overthinking.
Yeah. And we got all sorts of stuff. Holly found Mark Twain said, I've had a lot of worries in my life, most of which never happened. Also, I've lived through some terrible things in my life, some of which actually happened. And one of our viewers on Facebook, Dave, texted me that, well, there's a 50% chance you could be wrong about a worst case scenario and a 50% chance you could be right about being wrong about a worst case scenario. In the end, what is your conscious, what is your life and your mindset worth to you? Are you going to live in the worst case scenario possibility, or are you going to? Wayne Dyer said, you have to decide, are we living in a, shoot, I had it. Help me out, somebody. Are we living in a, not a nasty environment? Are we living in a dangerous environment, or are we living in a healthy, something like that?
Okay.
Anyhow, Lenora, you got your hand up.
So I have a feeling that I was probably a contributor to this topic, as I had reached out to TJ about a number of worries and things that I happen to be overthinking. And it's not a surprise that this is the topic of this evening. And one thing that I had noticed was, and some of the things that I think about a lot are, when I'm speaking on stage, what is something that I really feel like when people are saying, I want to improve the quality of my life, how do I do that? Or I want this for myself, how do I do that? And the things that I've really come to ground myself in is language. How do I want to communicate to myself? And also, when I used to think about standing on stage, it was this big emotional upheaval. It was this big, like, what if this, what if that? And when I started to think about it more recently, it was much more grounded, and it was much more just talking and just sharing. This is something that's important to me that I feel like can really help other people improve the quality of their life. So how am I sharing? And in that, it became a much less overthinking situation because there wasn't this big emotional upheaval. And very specifically, I can tell you that I was to worry. Like, worrying was as common as, like you were having company over for a holiday, you were going to have an insane amount of food and you were going to overeat. Like, that's how common it was. It was matter of fact. And I didn't realize how much our society also contributes to it. Our culture contributes to it, that it's a very normal thing. What are you worried about today? Or what's going on? How's this? How's that? What's going to happen? What's going to happen? Why do you do this? And it's really this big emotional upheaval that people, and if you're not worried. So for example, Mark, I love that story that you had shared about going and traveling because you were grounded and you weren't worried, and people were like, well, you should be worried. Well, what's going to happen? And they're giving you this emotion and they're bursting it onto you. And this does circle back to when I work with my clients, especially when I work with parents of young children, helping them realize, definitely always have your kid navigate through the problem. They're going to come to you for help. Ask them what are 3 solutions and talk about it with them. Like the ball went on the other side of the fence. Talk about it with them. It doesn't have to be like, oh my God, the sky is falling, which I'm very good at saying. Talk about it with them. And then after that, what did they learn? Oh, I can think. I can problem solve. Oh, no big deal. It's just so fallen over the fence. Like helping them understand emotional regulation and that not everything needs this big upheaval. And the steadier you are, the more not neutral, but not in this massive drop and this massive extreme of overexcitement, because you're teaching them a sliding scale of emotion, and you're also teaching them in that sliding scale when you want to be in that excited space, also how to return to neutral and enjoy, or when they're down and they're really sad, how to return to neutral and how to navigate that, because I think that is one of the greatest keys to understanding and doing your best here in this fun realm that we call life on Earth. How are you navigating these challenges? And when you're in those periods of it feels like I'm doing all I can just to survive, and then getting to a thrive state, how we will go in and out of survival and thrival as we are here having this life experience, and understanding how you can come back to this neutral state, this emotional regulated state, and recognize that you're completely capable of navigating life's challenges without having to overthink all of them. You can absolutely come to a neutral place, and you can process through, if you would like, 3 worst case scenarios and 3 best case scenarios. But you can do that, and it doesn't have to be a glorified overthinking situation.
Well, I tell you what, my squirrels were just screaming when you were talking, because the Wayne Dyer quote was, we have to decide, are we living in a hostile or a friendly environment, for one. And we were programmed for most of eternity to be weighted towards what could go wrong, because it was much better to mistake a stick for a snake than it was to mistake a snake for a stick. So there is that part in us to keep us safe. But when I watch people that are going through the massive tumble down of worst case scenario and all this stuff, one of the questions I love to ask them is, but do you die? Well, I don't know if I got to go that far. Well, then deal with it. You've survived plenty other stuff. If dying, and well, what if I do die? Then you don't have to worry anymore. It's over. Game done. Reset, plot twist, left turn. And we got so many good quotes here, and I'm going into your guys' time, but again, for the people that aren't on our call here, you don't get to see the quotes. And we had 2 different versions of a great Swedish proverb. One is, worry often gives a small thing a big shadow. Another version is, a little worry casts a big shadow. And, I didn't even see you got that in there, Holly. Yes. Are we humans having a spiritual experience, or are spiritual beings having a human experience? That's another one. How people treat you is their karma. How you react is yours. That's a great one. Abundance is not something we acquire. It's something we tune into. Yep. You're only one thought away from changing your life. Yep. You cannot always control what goes on outside, but you can always control what goes on inside, which is exactly what overthinking is about. Loving people live in a loving world. Hostile people live in a hostile world. Same world. Absolutely. And that's why I wanted to bring this up, which means we're 4 minutes into your guys' time. And we didn't get to the 3rd topic, which is common, and it's okay. But for those of you that tuned in late, or it's your first time watching Triple T on the live or the recording, We're into the second hour, which means it's time to change things up. And it's open mic, open platform. Anybody on the call can bring up a question or a topic. And I let the people on the call answer first because I like to learn as well. So, who's got a question or a topic to start off hour number 2? And Holly's got her hand up. All right, Holly, what you got?
So I'll give some context for this question so people know why I'm asking it. So I've been thinking a lot about how we choose the people who are in our lives.
Yep.
And, you know, it's different Harry versus the people that are our best friends versus the people who are in our tribe. So, and then I also think there's a difference between what we think we choose for and then what we end up choosing for. And sometimes if we don't actively choose, we end up with whatever default comes along.
Yes.
So anyway, my question is, and maybe this will be easier to think about in a more formal setting, like either dating or hiring somebody or whatever, but what criteria matters to you when choosing the people who are in your life, and how do you know when it's being met, and how do you know when it's not being met? What evidence do you look for, especially when you first meet them?
Great question. Haha. Who's got some answers for Miss Holly? Oh, come on now. Who's got some criteria on picking peoples? Lenora.
I love this question. I feel like there was one similar to this one that you asked a couple of weeks ago. And afterwards, I realized I didn't like it as much as my reply as much as I could have, I think. And at first, I just really am open to meeting people, whether they are friends or clients or colleagues, just curious to meet people, because I think the only way to really tell if they're going to stick around or if they are worth sticking around is as you get to know them and you get to hear their stories, or you get to hear from them. So very specifically, some people in this group I reach out to and I hear back from them. And not only do I hear back from them, they ask me questions about my life. They ask me not just like, hey, how are you? They ask me about specialty things, or, hey, I know you're traveling this week. Are you having fun? Where are you going? What are you doing? Or they'll see something and they'll say, hey, I thought of you, this, and I'm going to send it to you. And to me, that is somebody where they are having a giving and a receiving. It's not just a one-way friendship or a one-way way of communication, of which are very, very noticeable. I think one of the key factors is when they ask about you, do they genuinely remember what you have shared with them? Because I know how I show up as a friend. I know how I show up as a coach and a variety of things. And do they reply back? Or is it, yeah, let me tell you about this. And if you're starting to feel like it's one-sided, it's probably because it is one-sided. And if you notice that they are communicating, there's a caveat. They might just be communicating in ways that are important to them, not necessarily you. So to look for those signs, and this is something, especially if you're in a relationship, I'm as you all well know, I am a language person. I love words. My husband is not so much for the words, he's much more for actions. So things that he will say, or things he might not say certain things, but he will do certain things. And he will ask me, rather than, I'm trying to think of something off the top of my head, something that I always think is very sweet is he knows my movie flavor is not beyond PG-13. And my preferred movie flavor is Hallmark. And he'll sit down and we'll go to watch a movie. He's like, what Hallmark movie do you want to watch tonight? Because he knows that I'm not too keen on the other types of movies. And to me, that is something that is very important, because he's showing me in a way that's important to me when we do something together that I matter in this situation or I matter in this opinion, whatever it might be. So very small microcosm. But those are definitely my thoughts. Notice when you receive, how do you like to receive? Is it fulfilling to you? Are you aware that when you're receiving, is it in a way that's meaningful to you, or is it possibly in a way that's meaningful to them? And it's just that you have to learn to understand it from that perspective.
Great answer. Who's got another answer for Miss Holly? Really? None of you guys have ever dealt with meeting new people and you're just like, oh, hi, you can fog a glass, so I'll hang out with you? Going once? Mark?
Well, I think the process is largely subconscious. Again, it's we're trying to find if someone aligns with our values. The criterion values thing, and as you're always saying, always be testing. To see if those values line up, and shared experiences, shared interests. But it's if you again, you can fool yourself sometimes. If you think someone's interested in the same things you are, that means that you're not listening and you're doing too much of the talking, which I'm often guilty of. But how we do, like I said, and how we how we decide whether or not these are people that are if there's rapport, if I'm talking to a guy and we're interested in the same things, then I start thinking, oh, he thinks the same way I think. We're simpatico, and that we have the same interests and things like that. So building that and once you, like you said, and that's kind of how you decide is, can I establish rapport with this person? Are we are we simpatico? So that would be one way to decide whether or not these are people you want around long term. And if we but over time, we're going to find out if we really are simpatico. So that's what I would say.
I love that Mark said trust the subconscious. Spot on. Trust your intuition. And especially if you're an overthinker, notice what you like about your friendships that already exist. Notice what's important to you in those friendships, how they're communicating with you. And also the reason I said trust your intuition is last summer learned a great lesson and should have trusted my intuition and I didn't, and found that out the hard way. But it was a good lesson.
Good stuff. Who else has something to share? Well, if everybody's said, got some good stuff here in the comments. Renee put in, say something odd, offbeat, or out of the ordinary, something with a bit of a shock value to it, and see how the person responds. They will typically show their true colors. And Mike put on there, go on a trip and pretend to get lost. Also know ahead of time what are some issues that are red flags and stand by them. Yes. All different ways that are ABT. Always be testing. And take the time to analyze and write down what is important to you. So many people run on autopilot. And, you know, when I ask them, well, if you go out to buy a car, do you just tell somebody to hand you some keys and you'll give them money and you'll take whatever shows up? No, you've got values and criteria for that. Have the same for friends. And definitely have them for a partner, but have them for friends. And take the time to do some research and development. Research humans, develop yourself, and build your tribe wisely. We've heard it many, many times. You are the sum total of the 5 people you hang out with the most. If you hang out with 5 partiers, you're the 6th. If you hang out with 5 hard workers, you're most likely the 6th. If you hang out with 5 broke people that like to drink beer, play video games, and eat Cheetos, you're probably the 6th. If you hang out with 5 people that are investors and millionaires, even if you're not the millionaire, chances are you are on your way. So when you're meeting these people, have your criteria written down somewhere and analyze it and build that list. I've traveled, I've moved around. Mom will tell you, if she was on the call, she would tell you, I have moved many times. I have had to start new tribes, new friendships, all the above many, many times. And what it taught me was, don't always accept the first ones that show up. I think we covered this a while back, that if you got somebody that is moving, they got kids in school, the best advice you can give them is don't get sucked into a tribe right away. Because typically the ones that will accept you first are not the ones that you really want to be with. The higher level tribes will vet you first before they let you in. Lenora.
I had
I
sugar.
and I
I
hate to
love
say,
it.
I'm gonna have to duck out for a quick second. You guys can probably hear my windmill got damaged and it is beating itself to death right now. I think I've got a bent vein, so before it gets
Yeah,
under,
go.
I'm going to go grab it. I'll be right back.
Go. I love what Renee mentioned, and then Mike also put, go on a trip and pretend to get lost. Also know ahead of time with some issues that are a red flag and stand by them. I agree with that one. That one was really good. Guillermo, did you have something you wanted to share?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Hi.
Hi. It's really interesting since I have I met you guys in Chicago. I did. I don't know how to explain it, but it's like wake up. I just wake up and I start seeing so many things that I didn't see before. And as TJ mentioned, I start putting in place my values and criteria, and I start to question many things that I was doing in the past, and then everything started changing. So it was really interesting, a wake-up call, and everything started to move in a different way. So I think that the best, or the only part that I like TJ was explaining, you as well, and you say it, I think I knew that I need to follow my instinct, and I didn't. And that's what happened in Chicago, and all this learning experience. It made me wake up.
Very much so. I love that. Especially meeting you in Chicago is absolutely fantastic. And Guillermo is somebody who, so how you had mentioned, that was super fast. I don't think I've ever hustled that fast in my life.
It's not that far. That's why you guys could hear it so well.
Was it in the bathroom? Like, that's how quick you were.
Well, it's in the backyard.
Guillermo was just sharing something so lovely, and Holly, I wanted to share that with you. So, Guillermo was somebody who I had met right away, and you could just tell he was genuine and authentic. And he and I actually have stayed in touch since meeting in October. And there are times where we'll send each other messages outside of Triple T, and like, hey, this was inspiring. I thought of you, and same thing back and forth. And I think that's what goes to show you what a genuine person is and how they show up in your life. So for me, that's very, very important. When people message me back, Mark sends me motivational Monday things. It's so thoughtful, and I absolutely love it. And Holly, you've sent me pictures, and the things that are important to me. Mike has asked about my dog. Mo sends me pictures almost every day about good morning, and they're hilarious, and I forward them on to people. So that's, for me, that's a marker of where that person is and how important they are, which I find also very interesting. She says about the 5 people that you hang out with. And I don't necessarily consider myself hanging out with people. So that one is very interesting. I think that the most people I hang out with is you guys on a Tuesday night. And then you're all my group that I genuinely hang out with. And it's very interesting. And I find that people who are very, at least for me, very what I would consider rainy day clouds, where they really just draw your energy, they pull you down, or like they only come to you to complain, that's a marker for me as to where that relationship is. Am I a despot for this person, or am I somebody where they can speak to and speak with, and we can connect and have that expansion together about topics that are important to me, not necessarily this is in the news and this is the worst thing ever.
Yeah. One of the other things that I was going to mention is watch how they treat people that like servers or stuff like that. They can be putting on a beautiful mask, but if you go to the restaurant or something with them and you watch how they treat the servers, it's a good test. Now this one's for the guys. If you're gonna date her, take her swimming. Then you see all the stuff she's hiding. Oh, wait. Oops.
In fairness,
That was a good one.
In fairness, you got you.
Huh?
It's very scary.
Yes. So yes, there are many ways, and also remember the saying, people come into your lives for a reason, a season, or a lesson. And that season can be as short as a couple of minutes, or it can be a lifetime. I've got address books that show how many amazing people I have met in my life. And a few of them are still in my life. But it doesn't change the fact that I was blessed by spending some portion of my life with those people long enough to get their name and address and phone number in my address book. And I know that there are some people out there going, a what? An address book? Yes, oh yes, oh, look at this, the little black book. And yes, there are some addresses back here dating back to, well, I'm not going to tell you because, yeah, it's been a good hot minute. So, Guillermo, you had your hand up, I think it was?
Yeah, I just want to say, but that when those people come to your life, you got, like an example with Triple T has been teaching me how to be more conscious, and that is something that you need to have in order to understand what happened, and then consciously do the change, and so you don't aggravate it anymore. It's just say, okay, well, this person is teaching me all these, what I can do to do better. What is the lessons learned here just to improve yourself? Because if that person maybe is coded in different way, you are not going to change that person. What you need to understand is yourself, how you're going to improve, so you don't get back to those kind of people.
Yep, exactly. Lenore. Okay, Mark.
I was hoping it was going to come back to me. Somebody had messaged me, where's the chat that CJ keeps referring to? So I was messaging them back, and it's
okay.
Hopefully a squirrel comes back with it. I apologize.
Squirrel.
Squirrel just whispered in my ear that, well, if you do take a girl swimming, don't wear a Speedo because you ain't hiding anything either.
The water's cold.
What are you trying to smuggle into the country with that Speedo, Some people should just not wear a Speedo. Anyway, if you're a guy.
Unless you've got a good reason to. When I was working at the apartment complex, we had a couple sitting or sunning themselves out. I think it was like February when all the native Californians were wearing parkas and mukluks because it was at least 55 degrees out. And there was this couple, and he was wearing a Speedo, and she was wearing a skimpy two-piece, and I had to go out and find out where they were from because I knew they weren't locals. And, yeah, they were from Switzerland, and the weather is very nice this time of year. I said, well, then you can get away with a Speedo. Enjoy your time. Lenora. Squirrel.
Oh, you people talking about Speedos. I did remember you were talking about the book, the telephone book, the address book. And I think there's such a wonderful thing about journaling. And there are times where I used to go to a summer camp. And when I went to the summer camp, so I am 40, almost 41, and I went to this summer camp from the time that I was about 7 years old till I was probably about 17 or 18. And there's some people that I still know, and I know of them, or like my sister still talks to them. I haven't necessarily spent time with them. But then there are other people that I was thinking about that I met in college, and these people their name is long gone from my head, their last name at least, and they're definitely nowhere on Facebook that I've tracked them down or anything like that. And they're people that I think of and I have a happy memory about. And I love that you mentioned that people will come and go for a season, a reason, a lesson, whatever it may be. And to look back on that and to think, wow, I had a time with them. I had a good memory, or have a good memory with them, or we had good times together. I think that's a really beautiful thing. And to recognize those as people that have contributed in your life. So whether you're going out to make new friends or you're going out to meet clients or networking, whatever it might be, they may be in your life for, I hope, if they're a good quality person, that they're in your life for the rest of your life. And if not, that's okay too. I think, for as long as DJ's willing to do triple take, I think it's amazing. I'm pretty sure I've now cleared all of you to the fact that you're going to live to be at least 125. Thank you very much. And all is well on that front. However long we all get to spend here together, we've now been together for at least 100 episodes collectively. And that's an amazing thing. So if you fast forward 20 plus years, this is going to be part of your memory. You're making a memory now, and I think that's a beautiful thing. And the more we can appreciate the ones that we have, so even closing the loop on romanticizing the past, you can romanticize this now and enjoy it now, and what's important about it, and how can you move it forward in your life? Where is it contributing to your life, and how do you know that you're feeling fulfilled and satisfied? And I think that's something really beautiful to notice. And then sharing that I want more of that. I prefer more of that. That feels really good.
Yes. Part of living life, and anybody who's been out in public with me knows that a stranger is just a friend I haven't introduced myself to yet. I can talk to anybody, and I enjoy talking to people. And again, some of it I know they are in my life for the 32 and a half seconds that I give them a compliment, and that's it. But I've said it to enough people and have proven it enough. You are one hello away from a completely different life. You don't know who you're going to meet. You don't know what those people will do for you or who they will become in your life. So many people are so afraid of talking to someone. Well, but, back to overthinking, worst case scenario. Well, what if they're a serial killer? For real? Well, then you got to wonder if that's a reason, a season, or a lesson. What if they're just a really cool person? What if you find out that the old man in the rocking chair in the overalls is the millionaire next door? Who likes to help people? And it doesn't necessarily mean that, going to be your sugar daddy. But they may be able to help you with some business ideas and help you with a loan. My first house, when I bought my first house, I was broke as a joke. Mom will tell you. And I got it because I became friends with a very prominent businessman in town who went to the bank and said, give this kid a loan. Help him find a house, he'll take care of it, give him a loan. And I got that house with, I think I had a whole whopping $900 to my name in the bank. Reason, season, and a lesson. So, Lenora.
What the hell is with my memory tonight?
Squirrels are, you left your squirrels at home. It's that vacation oxygen. It works differently.
What, right before that, you were talking about. Okay, Mark, go ahead. I did have it written down. Serial killer. Okay.
Squirrels going, serial killer.
So I do not enjoy the news, and social media has not been my friend of lately. And I think it's in my head. I'm going to say the words. It's getting worse. It's potentially getting worse the more because you keep watching it. And when you go up to people and when you're interacting with people, yes, I love that TJ stops and talks to anybody and everybody. I don't necessarily do that. I do tend to be a little more guarded, very specifically when I am alone. I don't just start a random conversation. That being said, yesterday we were in Helen, Georgia, and 2 days ago we were in Helen, Georgia, and we did a hike and we were in the town and it was absolutely beautiful. And my husband wanted to go to a place called Lakemont, and his aunt and uncle had lived there many, many years ago, but it's like a distant aunt and uncle, like 3 steps out. And he had visited them once when he was 5 years old. And all he remembered was playing with trucks in the driveway and going to swim down by the water. Now, Harry was born well over 40. Let's just leave it at that before I leave his birthday out here on the social media internet. And somewhere on Facebook, they were talking about this house and this restaurant that used to be there in the 60s, and that his aunt and uncle used to own the restaurant in the 60s and the 70s. And now we start talking, nobody knows where it was really much because now it's evolved 16 different times and there's a 100-year-old hotel there. So we're sitting at a restaurant and now we're talking to a waitress who is much younger than 40. And she didn't know what she was talking about, but she turns and she starts talking to the table behind us. And these people clearly are local people and clearly have been here for quite a while. And it was really nice to be able to have that conversation and not think, oh my God, is somebody at the table a serial killer, or is somebody at the table going to try and hurt me? Unfortunately, social media and everything on the news has amped things up, and they repeatedly violate our boundaries and have no problem doing it on the regular basis. But if I go to my grocery store, people are pretty nice. People are still saying hi to each other. People are still smiling. People are still saying, have a good day. People are still saying, how are you? People are still stopping in the aisle. When I go to a restaurant, people are still having conversations. And thankfully, nobody has come running out at me with a knife or has tried to harm me. All this to say, yes, we can absolutely overthink meeting people. And we can absolutely have great interactions with people and recognize that we are human. And for the most part, people really just want to have a good day. People are really just wanting to be kind and not run you over with a car or whatever it may be. So when you find yourself interacting with other people, allow yourself to still use your intuition and to still use your amazing skill sets of always be testing and to not necessarily let them straight into your house and be sleeping in the guest bed that night. But also allow yourself to talk to people and enjoy them because they are human and they are here and they're having a very similar life experience as you.
Great answer. Glad the squirrel showed up.
How about I? I'm sorry, Mark. Hopefully your scrolls are telling us your thoughts.
Mark.
I love when Mark
That
laughs.
was just spectacular. But yeah, again, it's kind of a question which is, I don't know whether it's an offshoot of Holly's question or it's a laser right to the center of Holly's question. But I've been kicking around a question for the last couple of days, something I saw and something I experienced. And the question, again, it's not about rapport, it's not about criterion values, it's nothing mechanical, it's not about being authentic. Again, I can't quite get a handle on it, and I'm going to need you guys to really dig deep to help me. But how do you become the person that other people can't forget? It has something to do with charisma, but not entirely. It's not genuineness. It's like I said, but I just, again, how do you, I wanted to give somebody a piece of advice. It's just be the one that they cannot forget. But I don't know how to get there. Okay, so again, it speaks to the heart. I think what I think of what Holly was trying to get to is, how do you, again, it could be about, like I said, being larger than life. I don't know, being, lining up with another person, but with any individual, how do you become the person that they just can't forget? And I don't have an answer, so I'd like to have you.
Got an answer for him.
I was going to say, Mark, because I thought you were asking. I was going to say, you are. You are that. You already
Thank
are.
you.
When it comes to that, to me, yes, I do think that there is a charisma. But I think when we say charisma, there's an energy. And also recognizing that if you, let's go with an easy number here. So for 100 people, and if I wanted to stand there and specifically as it's coming to me, I'm going to give a talk to 100 people and I want to be unforgettable. There's rock solid chance that 99% of those people might not remember me, but they will remember how I made them feel.
There it is.
How does that person want to make
That's
them
it.
feel?
Great answer. Holly.
First of all, I think this definitely is at least related to the heart of my question, if not the heart of my question. I did have a couple thoughts, though. So the first question is, we always get back to the know your outcome step of everything. There's different reasons to be unforgettable. The first thought that came into my mind, I was at an organ concert, and I was feeling a little bit nervous, and the person next to me leaned over and said, well, if you go up to the organ, you sit down, you play one note, look down at the organ, scream and run off, at least you'll have a good story. I've forgotten that. That would definitely be memorable. I don't know if it's the kind of memorable I want to get, but so I think there's two ways people become memorable. Well, maybe three or four, who knows, but one is authenticity and genuineness. When you have the courage to be authentic, it makes you stand out from the crowd. And a lot of people are going to look at that and say, oh, wow, I wish I could be that genuine. I wish I could be that authentic. You're showing them a side of themselves that they want to be as well. And I think most people admire it, even though they're afraid to do it themselves. I will also say if you do something extremely unexpected, like sitting down at the organ for the organ recital, screaming at the top of your lungs and running away, that's going to be memorable. Any kind of something that's going to reset, that's going to tap into adrenaline, creates a memory. But also, I think things like rapport can create memories. What Lenora said about, they won't remember what you said or did, but they'll remember how you made them feel. What is your outcome? Do you even want them to remember you? But another one is get to be a really good storyteller, because people remember stories. They may not remember facts. They may not remember. And part of storytelling, is owning your own story. So if you tell your most embarrassing moments and they're funny to you, I think I've mentioned this before, those are going to be your best stories. But do you own them enough that you can slow down and tell the story and feel the story? Or are you still so concerned about it that you rush through the whole story? Have you practiced telling the story? Um, and then just also go for the emotions, don't go for the logic. So, they talk about the elephant and the rider. I think it's, as I recall, I think it's Buddha, or anyway, it's something to do with an Indian culture. But, the rider may seem to be in control, but it's the elephants that really have the power. And they talk about the rider being intellect and the elephant being the emotion. When you touch somebody's emotions, you're much more memorable than when you try to touch their intellect. So, just a few thoughts.
Good stuff. Nancy put a couple of items in the comments. One is, when you're conversing with them, make sure that you are interested in what they have to say. Make eye contact. Body language shouldn't look like you want to turn and run and get out of the conversation. Be interested more than being interesting is a good one. And repeating what they're saying to them so they know you understand what they're telling you and it matters to you. Echo talk. The trifecta. Yes, echo talk, 3 magic questions, values and criteria elicitation. And another one is not being afraid to be a little audacious. They've shown that audacious people get much more from life than the people that are afraid to stand out. And there are times when it's one of the things I like about traveling, especially with somebody who's willing to be a little crazy, is you can grab that persona that you're not allowed to have with people that watched you grow up, and you can be whoever the heck you want to be. If you could be anybody for a night, who would you be? And of course, my answer depends on where you are and who you're with, but who would you allow yourself to be that you would consider very audacious, loud, boisterous, whatever it is? Ability to walk up and be large and in charge and big and fun and all the above. Because that's a fun person to be, to remind yourself that you're alive. Mark.
Yeah, I think we're getting closer and closer to again the center of the thing. What Holly said and what Lenora said about. I realized that I'm a pretty passionate guy. I function, but I find that the people who, and again, I'm not sure this is the answer to, but if I if I'm audacious enough, like you said, TJ, to ask somebody, what are you really passionate about?
Mm-hmm.
And to talk about them, like I said, and and to hear them and to, again, to, because, everybody's, has their own passions, I think. And I think that, and if you really join with somebody's passion, again, I'm figuring this out as I'm talking. So, but if you join, if you're a passionate person, and a lot of us here are passionate people, but if you join, if you join with their passion and you really, again, they can feel that you're just as passionate about the things that they are. I don't think they're going to forget you.
Yes.
Like, wow, there's somebody that sees the world like I do, again, and you make them feel amazing, wonderful, heard, validated, whatever you want to say, again, I'm getting closer to the answer with your help, guys, that when you share, when you find out, and you have to be audacious enough to ask the question, what are you truly passionate about? And, that might be, and then, like I said, and then you're going to make them feel amazing, Laura, because, oh my God, this person shares my passion. And I think that is a way to become memorable, be that person that they just, oh, I met this person, and wherever I get, they just, I can't believe I met somebody who, shares my passion about whatever, and I did that on the fly, when I was traveling, and I talked to this gal about horses, and she was like, she was truly passionate about horses, and and it goes into the three magic questions, and
Yes.
I think if you're genuine and authentic, and you share a passion with somebody, maybe that's how you become that person that they just can't forget about. Maybe.
Well, that's basically the trifecta on perfection. Learning how to effectively communicate with people and be interested in them, and be more concerned about being interested in them than being interesting. They will still find you amazingly interesting if you spend more time being interested in them. I had to learn that the hard way. I've got a lot of things about my life I can talk about, but when I focus more on the other person, they remember me more. Holly.
Another thought that's coming to my mind too is when you're in an interaction, do you care more about, now you could be all three, but which one matters more? Being memorable, being impactful, being liked.
Yes.
If your goal is to be, impactful, trifecta through magic, like all that stuff, you can't do better than that, honestly. You get to their passions, you get them talking. If you want to be liked, you can't do better than those. But you do sometimes have to know when you get done, they remember how you made them feel. There's going
Yes.
to be a hypnotic anchor. When they see you again, they're probably going to instantly feel good. They may not be able to say why, but they're going to instantly feel good. They're going to go into rapport very quickly with you. That doesn't guarantee they're going to remember your name.
Yep.
But the thing is, do you even care? If you made a positive impact on this person's life, does it matter that much to you that they remember your name or that they remember what color of shirt you were wearing? Because they're inward focused when they're talking about their passion. And that's the whole point. That's the whole point, is that you're amping up that passion. And yes, I will say there's still a better chance they'll remember you. And if you become passionate about it and equal their passion, there's definitely a greater chance they're going to remember you. But I think when it comes to memory, the other thing you can, if that's really what you care about, and I'm not saying it's what you should care about, there is one other way to hack the system, and that is our system is wired to detect threats. And so if you can active, and especially if it also likes that contrast of letting go of the threat too. So if you could find some way to hack yourself into their threat, that's why something sudden, out of the ordinary, like I said, that example of somebody screaming out of where it wouldn't be normal or whatever, or you give them something to be afraid of. If you can amp that up, you will almost always become memorable. That doesn't necessarily mean that's the best way to hack it, but and I do think passion is a good way to do it too. But if you want another way to do it, if you make them feel fear, and fear might just be riding a roller coaster. But whatever is that fear and then relax. Adrenaline imprints memories.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's a really good way to get somebody to remember.
Well, that's why the guys that used to pretend that they were secret agents see somebody, see a pretty lady and quick hop in her booth and go, please, I need your help. I just pretend you like me for just a sec. I'll be out of your hair. And don't look around. And the lady's like, what? It's that novelty. So yes, you got to remember to have some novelty and the trifecta and all the other stuff that we teach and learn, and not being afraid to be a little audacious, not overthinking, you know. And one thing you can probably, when I'm looking at the stuff, if you get people romancing the past, what part of the trifecta is that, Mark?
Yeah, something else just popped up. Squirrel. You can go up to somebody and go, in a very excited state, go, excuse me, if you're, looking for companionship, hey, have you ever met somebody where you just, I don't know, just felt totally safe and perfectly comfortable, and you just felt an incredible connection, and how would that, and again, it's all NLP. And if you felt that now, and then you drop, your tonality, is that something that maybe we'll get a coffee and, have a discussion about? You're reminding them of someone in their past that they felt an instant rapport with, and it might make you memorable, even if they say, no, I got to go someplace, but, if you use intrigue and, and remind them of a time in the past where they've just felt that instant connection, that instant rapport, might also be a way to be memorable.
Yes. And like Holly had brought up, knowing your outcome is them finding you memorable. If is that your outcome? Well, then you direct your energy, your conversation towards that. Is your outcome making sure you don't forget them? That adds another slice to it. And let's see what. Oh, Holly, you wanna say what you just put into the chat, please?
Oh, Mark was describing pattern weaving, which is great, and then I was just throwing, you could also put some embedded commands in there. So I just did the embedded command remember me, and there's a movie called Remember Me, so I just used that as an excuse to put that phrase in over and over again.
Mm-hmm. Yes. There are lots of different ways to go about things, and I think the commonality under all of it is the combination of intention and knowing your outcome versus just running on autopilot and just gabbing about whatever comes up, the weather, whatever, shallow stuff like that. That makes it pretty easy for people to walk away and remember you for a whole whopping minute and a half after you walk away. So we got 2 minis left. Anybody got any ahas, epiphanies, clarification they would like before we sign off? Crickets! No squirrels. Well, then I guess it's time for me to once again, for the 219th time, thank you all for taking the time out of your life, out of your busy schedules to be here on this platform. I appreciate you all so much. I could do this without you, but it would be really boring. And yes, Greg, that's a Mets. Good eye. But I want to thank you guys for being here. And I look at, I just want to, obviously here I am, blah, 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 blah. don't even have the vocabulary to tell you guys how much I appreciate you. And I hope to see your beautiful smiling faces back here in 7 glorious days. Please go out and live life. Meet people. Say hi to people. And have as much fun as you can. None of us are getting out of here alive. So in the time we got, you might as well throw the brick on the throttle and hang on and scream like a 5-year-old and enjoy it.
Sound like Ferris Bueller.
Yes. So, thank you. Oh, almost forgot. That would be a bad thing. Love you, Mom. Love you guys too. I'll talk to you later. Bye.
Good night, peeps.